Hi, and welcome to a special episode of our Experiencing Consciousness podcast. We are
Roxanna Erickson,
Catherine Rossi,
and I'm Jan Lipa.
We are so happy you are here.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today we are here with Dr. Roxanna Erickson and with Dr. Catherine Rossi, and we're going to be focusing especially on the topic of pain, but in a different way than we did before. We're going to be focusing actually on different approaches, how you can work with pain through facilitation of different trance phenomena. And we're going to be actually focusing on direct, indirect, permissive, and authoritarian approaches to working with pain. So, Dr. Roxanna Erickson, so how to work with pain? So many different ideas, so many different routes that we can go around it. What's your idea?
Well, depending on the cause of the pain, one needs to find out what the patient is going to be most responsive to. Sometimes with chronic pain, habitual pain, embedded pain, long-term pain, it's going to require a lot more intensive work to figure out what's going to be best for this particular client. There's a difference between what we call acute pain and chronic pain. Acute pain is something that really kind of blows up right now, and then chronic pain is that low-level humming in the background that compromises quality of life. And so my own fascination with pain has opened my eyes and my creative capacity to work with multiple different scenarios and multiple different ways. My earliest profession was that as a nurse, which I went into because I had become aware that pain is responsive to attitude, to psychological interventions, to perspective, to words. And I just became fascinated with that and wanted to do some exploratory for myself, working with people. And of course, working in the hospital in a lot of different settings, it really gave me plenty of opportunity to explore the phenomenon of just plain suggestion, direct suggestion, to observe what the other ways that people describe their pain and responded to the way other people respond to them. And then for me, what's most fascinating, how hypnotic phenomena can be called forth to really manipulate the experience of pain. When in the treatment of pain, there's you can dampen your awareness, which is what some of the medications do, dampen one's awareness to the signal. And one of the other points of intervention is manipulating the interpretation of the signal. Now, backing up for just a moment, pain is a signal that something's in danger, being compromised, is something needs your attention. So when one gets that signal of pain, you put your hand in the fire, touch something hot or whatever, trip over something. You get a signal, something's amiss, it's your responsibility to examine what's going on, and then you interpret it. And so that interpretation is where most of the hypnotic interventions come into play. And I don't want to monopolize this whole conversation. I've got direct and indirect. I use expectation. I use authoritarianism. I use suggestion. And I use transformation of the signals with pain. And so one of the things, one other quick point I want to make is many times people think, well, hypnotic treatment of pain, that's just distraction. And I want to say loud and clear, oh no, it isn't. It is not. You can be distracted from your pain. And that's a good thing. I don't have any complaints about somebody who uses distraction to give them a break from pain. I don't have any problem with that. But hypnosis goes so far beyond distraction that that's where our conversation's going today. So Catherine, do you want to come forth with an idea?
Well, what you've been talking about very well, Roxy, is that there's so many different ideas about pain, about the interpretations of pain. And I think of it as pain is not good, pain is not bad, pain is information. And so to take the emotional aspects out of what is the pain. And I did experience a time in my life, 3.5 years, as a matter of fact, that I basically had debilitating pain pretty much 24 hours a day. And it was after I took a fall and I broke my neck and I took a whiplash to my spine. And so I thought, well, all right, this is what's right in front of my eyes, pain. I couldn't do anything else because I couldn't read. I couldn't, listen to anything because it would throw the pain into higher orbit. So I thought, all right, I'm going to take an interest. This is what's right in front of my face. I'm just going to take an interest in this. I'm going to follow it. I'm not going to make judgments about it. And what I noticed is that naturally I was symptom scaling it, because when pain reaches a threshold on a scale of 1 to 10, and when it's over 10, in my case, that's when I would pass out from the pain. So it was really important to understand about the symptom scaling of it. And I did pass out every night from the pain. So it was real, and it was telling me, stay very still. My neck was broken, but it wasn't diagnosed properly. So the pain was really valuable to keep me very, very still, to very, very gently lie down in bed, to take 45 minutes to get up out of bed in the morning, because of the pain that was so great. It was excellent information. You can see, anyone that's watching, my neck moves both ways, up and down. I have no pain today.
Verified.
Verified. I'm a subject of one, in my own personal study. But it was the fascination to me about the pain, and that there was a wave nature to it. And when I could see it going, like to wake up and it would be like a 7. Oh, glory be, it's only a 7. And then it would kind of go up, it would go down. And like I say, at the end of the day, I finally, I had no choice but to pass out. Pain medication made me depressed, and it didn't do much for the pain. So that was not an option for me. But it was that fascination. And within the course of that fascination, I really didn't know anything about hypnosis at the time, but that was a lot of what I was doing. So it was when I was going to pay attention to the pain, when I was going to let the pain go out and have a cup of tea while I did something else, and really noticing the ups and downs with it. And so when I'm working with someone that has pain, oh, and by the way, when I told Ernest about my story of how I got to the other side of pain, his response was, oh, Erickson would have loved you, because of the fact that I did something similar with myself that Erickson did for himself with the polio situation. And every day, what I did, well, I was about 2 months into it, 2 or 3 months into it, and I decided I was going to look for the absence of pain. That's what I was going to do in the morning. I was going to do it in the afternoon, and I was going to do it in the evening because I didn't want to miss it if it came. So there was this engagement, there was this fascination. It's important that you know my little story here, is because then it makes sense of tuning in sensitively to the person that you're with that's experiencing the pain. And as you said, Roxy, is it acute? Is it chronic? Does it, now I know because of the study of chronobiology that there is a wave nature. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. And so when people say, no, 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 it's constant all the time, all the time, all the time, never changes, whether that's physical pain, whether that's emotional pain. And I educate people to say, actually, no, that's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And let me give you hope, because I know that if there is an expectation that I'm in pain, I will always be in pain, nothing is going to change, you are going to interfere with having something happen where the pain can lessen or the pain can go away altogether. So, so depending on a person, that if they're really stubborn and insistent that they are going to be in hideous pain for their entire life, then I say, wow, that's really, that's really interesting. So what I want you to do right now, let go of the pain, shock them. It's very, very direct. They bounce their body back and their eyes open really wide because they can't believe that I'm being that direct. And then I'll gently say, any change? And it's like, well, yeah, I forgot about it there for a moment or two. I said, oh, it's very interesting. So depending on the situation and on the person, coming forward with humanity. The other thing that is, how can you have a hallucination with the pain of, again, to be able to go in there and have a dance with it. And, even age regression, of going into the future where all of a sudden, you've crossed the hump, or going into the past when your body would move without any effort whatsoever, and how good it felt to cry, to have a huge expression of your whole body is arched and you're crying, which we know we've all had that experience, and it's both painful and freeing simultaneously. So, depending on what the person is experiencing is how I approach it. But you can hear in the tone of my voice, you can see it in my eyes, in my heart of hearts, deep inside me. Maybe I'm naive, but I think that you can get to the other side of it. I really do. And that if it seems to be lingering, what's it saying to you? Does it have a voice? Is there an image? Can you draw a picture? Does it have a song? Does it have a dance? Of some way of getting the information? Is it tied to a past experience that's coming up for healing right now, for instance. And sometimes I've experienced people that have physical pain, yet what was happening underneath was a memory of some emotional pain that had happened that hadn't been resolved. So there's, to me, there's a lot of roads to Rome. There's a lot of ways that you can move in this regard. And it really depends on the person. But how about you, Jan?
Well, I'm trying to, I'm repeating myself in my head now what you said before, because I don't want to forget about it. You said that you said to the client, now let go of the pain, or let go of the pain now. And you said that it's direct. And I want to take that as an example that any communication actually is very multi-level. And I'll start with this because, if you say to someone, let go of the pain now, then at the level of content, true, that's very authoritarian and very direct. But on the other hand, I'm thinking to myself, okay, however, on another level, there's a lot of implications of that statement that are not expressed directly. Like, for example, if I say to someone, let go of the pain now, I'm actually also saying to them that pain is something that they are holding somewhere, or that they are holding to. Like, there can be a symbolic meaning of the word holding, or a direct meaning of the word holding. And then if I say to them, let go of the pain now, I'm assuming that letting go of the pain is possible. And that's also indirectly expressed, because you don't say to them directly that it's possible. You just imply, by creating this statement, this one statement, you assume that it's actually possible. And indirectly, you can also communicate non-verbally that you are certain of it. If you say it with a certain tone of voice and certain expression, then you communicate to them, it's obvious that you can do it. And you don't say it directly. And also, what was the other one that I was thinking? If you say to someone, let go of the pain now, you are also creating for them a choice, because indirectly that means that they are holding the pain, and if they are holding the pain, they can decide to listen to you and let go of it, or keep it. But that becomes a choice, and that alters the whole situation. But it's indirect. You don't tell them, it's your choice, but there can be assumptions drawn, implications drawn from this one statement. So I'm just, I just want to kind of analyze it for a bit, to just point out that, in my opinion, every communication have a potential to be direct and indirect at the same time. So it can be very direct, but have indirect ideas behind it. Like, for example, I'm working with someone on pain, so to speak, and they are stuck at some point in the process. Like, for example, I can see that I'm proposing a lot of things, throwing suggestions. I like the word suggestion because that means that I'm suggesting something, not, telling someone to do something. I'm just saying maybe this, maybe that, like something. That's how I understand it. But they don't go anyplace. So we say, for example, that there is a resistance. And one of the techniques to discharge resistance, one of the ways to deal with resistance is discharging it. So I can, someone has difficulties with dissociation, and, for example, with hand levitation, so let's say, and I can tell them, and now you can open your eyes, and when you open your eyes, you will only see me and nothing else. And I'm underlying the nothing else, because what the person is going probably to do when they open their eyes, they're gonna look around to see what else is there, right? And in this way, I'm discharging the resistance, and giving this person a place where they can express, for example, their independence, that they are in charge, or anything else, any need that stands behind the resistance. And so the external observer that doesn't know what I'm doing can say, huh, look what he done. He created such a complex suggestion where that person wasn't able to create hand levitation. What a moron! You know, he doesn't know what he's doing. But when you know that actually I'm trying to discharge the resistance, and you know, so then very authoritarian statement that says, you're gonna open your eyes and you're gonna see only me, or you're gonna see everything else but me. This is an authoritarian direct statement, but actually it has an indirect intention. It has an indirect implication, a set of implications. And strategically, it's there for a different purpose than it looks like. So in this way, the direct statement can be very indirect. And that's one thing that I wanted to underline. And when I'm working with people in hypnosis with pain, I generally, as both of you, I mix things together. So I use a lot of indirect things, and so I use anecdotes that facilitate and elicit associations with different mechanisms that can help people deal with pain. So I'm gonna create metaphors or anecdotes about, you know, how I, for example, slept on my arm and I wasn't able to feel it, or other sensations, like, you know, not so directly connected with pain management, but I can, for example, tell people about how sometimes you can just feel shivers on your spine, or, you know, out of nothing. Or, for example, that there's a lot of unconscious processes in terms of muscle memories, and that you know that any person have the unconscious muscle memory, and that we can memorize things and we don't know about it. And I can talk about walking, like that most of us we don't remember how we learned to walk, if we did that in our childhood, but all of us did it. And, you know, I can tell them how it evolved, and how from learning how to sit straight, they evolved into walking and standing, walking, and everything else. And that they don't know how they did it, but that it is there, and that their unconscious is actually using that all the time, everywhere, with every step. And that it also can be true with emotions, that there's an unconscious memory of emotions, that the unconscious knows how to tense each muscle and relax other muscles to actually create a feeling of an emotion. And I'm indirectly telling them that they can alter the sensations in their body through muscle movements and muscle tensions. And from that, I can build then combine that with dissociations, and also, you know, kind of other anecdotes to create the experience of feeling something totally else. Or, for example, change the feeling of the symptom. Like there is a pain, you can change it into the feeling of warmth, or something else, based on those abilities that you elicit through those stories. So I'm trying to always, when I'm working with people that are suffering from any pain, I'm trying to do it in a deep state of trance, because then you can elicit through those anecdotes and metaphors, and also indirect approaches like suggestions and all the other things. You can elicit actual trance phenomena and build from it many interventions. And I'm in terms of working with things like pain or any other very specific symptom, I'm always thinking about it in terms of that in hypnosis, I'm helping people to build skills that they can then utilize to work with pain. So I'm trying to help them go through various experiences. Like, for example, analgesia or anesthesia would be one of them, but also dissociations, like, hand catalepsy, or think that one of your hands is moving and you cannot stop it. So involuntariness, it's also very important in working with pain. And also I train people in hallucinations, because they can also be useful in those terms, both in creating hallucinatory feelings and everything connected with that, but also creating other realms that they can go to to get their attention from pain. And also the last thing I want to point out, and I'm shutting myself, is that anytime that I work with pain, especially with pain, I'm being extra cautious to not just remove it. It's because what I saw in many cases, when you just remove pain, it works for like very limited time. You can remove pain when you are preparing someone for an operation, or like a hypnotic birth. But because then, in a few hours, it doesn't matter because the operation is over. But when someone has a chronic pain, for example, and they are dealing with it like on a daily basis, then if you just remove it, it's going to come back pretty soon. And so I'm always giving people opportunities to experience or propose them opportunities to experience pain in a different ways. Like, they can transform it into warmth, into tingling, into something irritating, like, itch or something. And then I always tell the unconscious mind that it can, I tell to the person that the unconscious mind may decide which way now would be the best to express that need that stands behind the pain in a best possible way in those moments when it's necessary and when it's important, so that not to lose the signal value, as you said, Dr. Erickson, of the pain itself. And I think that's, in a very brief terms, how I view, working with pain.
That's fantastic. It's really a stepwise approach, and that I admire very much. And coming from the point of view of helping to create skill sets on different levels of consciousness, and to help that individual have some confidence that it's not just one way, it's not just one experience. And the truth of the matter is, every human being on this planet at some point is going to experience pain, whether it's acute or whether it's chronic. And so this is a really necessary skill set that that I think is really important. And the idea of helping people to develop their self-confidence, that it's okay if this way doesn't work, I'm going to try a different one. Well, now I'm going to try a different one after that. So it facilitates, by this stepwise approach, an open mind. And also the fact that there is, we know this. How many people do you know that had once been in serious pain that aren't anymore? Now, there are instances of people that have chronic pain, and it's a lifetime situation. And that's dealt with a little bit differently. But one of the things that I admire most about working with hypnosis is there's hope. And for resiliency, which is one of the books that Roxy wrote, with some others, hope and resiliency. And the idea that we could bring that forward, we've been talking about physical pain, but the same techniques can apply to emotional pain as well.
Well, I have a personal interest in working with physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what one learns from working with physical pain can then be extended to emotional pain. But for me, looking at this conversation, which has brought forth so many multitude of possibilities and opportunities. But I'm backing up for a minute I think let's give a step-by-step. If you want to work with somebody with pain, there's a sequence going into it. And the first thing I think is what Catherine says, that pain is information. And, I called it a signal. Information is really a better way to look at it. And then the second step is to turn towards it. And so many people, they go, oh, I feel pain. I want to shut that down. I want to get rid of it. I don't want to acknowledge it. I just want it to go away. But that isn't an effective approach to really overcoming pain. So instead, you have to show a fascination, show an interest, gather more information. And we can do that by role modeling this unafraid, oh, tell me more, I want to learn, this is interesting. The fearless approach to gathering more and more information. And one of the key things that Catherine brought up is, yeah, it always has a waveform. There are times when it's worse and it's time when it's better. And if you turn towards it and begin to study, you can actually almost all of the time figure out when those highs and lows come and go. And one of the things that I always stress is the most wonderful skill to learn about pain is to become fascinated with the sensation of pain going away. Don't miss that. That's the most important part. And people become attuned to, oh, it's building, it's coming back, it's hurting. But people rarely are aware that if they put that focused attention onto the feeling of the pain fading, then they're building much more resources to work with. One next comment I want to make, and you brought this up beyond, is that as soon as you start talking about pain as an entity separate or as a self, respecting it for what it is, you're already teaching dissociation. And that skill of learning how to dissociate from the feelings of pain is a very, very powerful technique that can be manipulated in any number of directions. It can be transformed, it can turn into colors, it can dissipate, it can become any other thing. What I like to do with physical pain is I like to contain it. I like to delineate it. Oh, your shoulder hurts? Well, where? How about your elbow? Is it above that? And that by asking, is it above the elbow, is an indirect suggestion that I'm assuming it's above the elbow, it doesn't extend down to further than that. but that's just an embedded indirect suggestion. But I like to contain the pain and draw a line. Oh, okay, let's look really closely at what's going on here. And to draw a line of, oh, okay, it's this big. And again, that's delineating it, it's containing it, it's drawing margins around it, and it's identifying, well, that the rest of you is actually okay. You know, the rest of you is actually pretty normal and pretty good. So there are, through my expectations and role modeling, I'm also showing how to dissociate, showing a fascination, and all along very subtly, I'm maintaining this attitude that, well, we're going to be able to do something about this. Like, I'm usually not so direct as Catherine, as to say, what is it, you're paying to let go of it now. Not usually as direct and as bold as that, which is a very effective technique. But usually I just take a much more passive, I wonder what it's going to take to let you let go of that. And just to express it, said almost in an indirect, I'm curious about this. What's it going to take for you to let go of that? And so I've suggested in the same way that you can let go of it. And furthermore, I expect you to let go of it. And I'm just interested and curious and turning towards it. Once you develop that rapport and that working harmony, because the individual who comes to you with a chief complaint of pain, they're usually on board to focus in. And particularly if you can build the expectation that we're going to be able to do something about this, then they become available for a multitude of other specific techniques.
Absolutely fabulous, Roxy. And I gave the shocking example of, and sometimes I will do that, to say, okay, you know, pain is going to go away now, you know, that sort of thing. That's not usually the way that I work, but sometimes there's a spark in a person's eye that you see. You know, so it's a response to something. So I might be direct, but it's in a response to something. But what I really love about what you said, I loved all of what you said, but when, you know, it's like the facing it fear-free. And that one of the main techniques that I use with that is symptom scaling. I worked with someone the other day who had a band around her head that was like a headache. And it was pretty, you know, serious. And I said, well, you know, you scale it, what is it? Well, you know, it's a 6 right now. And I'm thinking inside myself, well, 6, that's not bad. But I'm smiling on the inside, because if the 6 is the high, where is it going to go? But to say, do you think it's possible to make it a 7? And I heard, well, I don't know. I said, well, you know, and then, oh, it's a 7. I said, that's wonderful. Do you think you can make it a little bit higher than that? Maybe even a 9. Well, I really don't know if I can do that. I said, well, just see. And by golly gee whiz, she got it up to a 10. And I just said, wonderful. You know, what goes up must come down. And then we talked about other things. And 5 minutes passed, and I looked at her and I could see that her face was so beautiful. It was so calm. And I said, well, where are you now? And she said, well, I'm at a 0. And I laughed and I said, well, that took all of 5 minutes, didn't it? And because it did, it actually, in this particular instance, where I didn't, except for saying, can you make it a little bit bigger? Face your fears and do it anyway. Go for it, sort of thing. And I found that, you know, in the right situation, when you're reading it correctly with a person, that it's a huge shock to know that you have that talent. Obviously, the headache was emotional, you know, so it was dealt with in a physical feeling of a headache. But the idea of experiencing the fear, the idea of delineating it, of well, it's over here, but it's not over there. And sometimes I will say, well, you feel the pain over here. Where's the place you feel the most comfort in your body right now? Well, I don't feel comfortable anywhere, doctor. I said, how about your little toenail? Yeah, that one's okay. And like, you know, so beginning to build, you know, the polarities with it, so it's not all or nothing. And that obviously, you know, the attitude and the expectation and walking in harmony with your client, where both of you are really interested in the same aim, which is comfort. It's not the word that's been used yet today, but the idea of being comfortable without being so upset. So even if on a scale of 1 to 10, when it's gone from a 9 to a 7, for instance, well, 7 is a lot more comfortable than a 9. You know, and I wonder what's going to happen in the next couple of hours. Like, you know, if it's time to stop the session, this sort of thing, please do let me know. Please do let me know. And usually what I found is people have said, well, you know, it went down to a 2. It didn't totally go away, but I was so excited that, and the implication is, and that I don't have to keep it so high. I can recognize when I'm in that comfort, and I can feel pleased with myself, and I don't have to be anxious anymore about it, because I know that there are ways that I can bring this situation down to be more manageable.
I think it's really interesting that you follow with this post-hypnotic suggestion. I wonder what it'll be like in a few hours, which is an indirect suggestion. And my personal style is to, first off, we all have to recognize what naturalistic trance state when the subject is most vulnerable and receptive to the suggestions that we want to offer, and be very strategic in the suggestions. But one of the things, this is where I flip-flop and begin to get very directive. I provide information about the injury. You know, it tends to swell, and the swell amplifies the discomfort. And if you let yourself get dehydrated, that too is another amplifier. And so you need to do, and sometimes immobility is called for, and sometimes immobility is the right thing to do. So you have to be sensitive to what message your body is giving you. So I started piling on these layers of information about, indirectly I'm saying, pay attention to where the pain's coming from, pay attention to what you're doing, the relationship. That's my indirect. But then my direct suggestion is that little by little, day by day, the pain will fade away, and you will put these sensations in their proper perspective, and it need not bother you then. the way it has bothered you previously, and you are going to find your life becoming more and more comfortable.
I believe you. It is. Oh my God, Roxy, thank you. I do.
But it's curious the way you give these indirect and I give these. Now is the time when I step forth with my direct suggestions.
Well, yes, I just want to pinpoint two more things here, because I have an impression that you are also both saying in different wording, however, but about I think two more important things that actually, I think we're talking about it a lot of time now, but I'll be the first one to name those. The first is the therapeutic relationship, and the other is the rapport. And because, when Dr. Catherine Rossi, when you said about comfort and the way to build it, and I thought to myself, yes, but this is also, you are actually talking about how to build a solid relationship with a client in those terms. And that's something of huge importance also, because what we're doing here is we're working on something that is very difficult for the client. And many times when they are experiencing pain, they are also experiencing with it a lot of hopelessness, helplessness, and all the other things that end with nasty things, And to deal with them, one needs a strong relationship that can be built either in a stepwise fashion. Sometimes it can be built pretty fast based on many variables, like for example, people have some expectations, and they with different people, one builds differently those relationships. But I think it's important to highlight that it's also important in that kind of work to have a solid relationship and also a rapport. That I understand the rapport a bit differently than many people. I understand it as a specific kind of relationship, and I mostly view rapport as a kind of hypnotic relationship where someone is even more closely related because we are closer in hypnosis to things that happen. We are more focused on something that is difficult, and we work with it. And also with that comes the acceptance. The basic principle of utilization comes with the acceptance of client's reality. And that's something that I see in pain has particular value, because many people, I give you an example, many people associate hypnosis with relaxation. And that's that's a misconception that actually restricts us from many times from doing great work, because I saw many people failing in doing proper analgesia or anesthesia or anything else, because they had an idea that you need to put someone in a trance and then tell them to relax their muscles, relax the tension, or go somewhere else where they can relax or something. So many relaxing, whereas when you think about it in terms of utilization, I go, okay, so what is your attention focused on? Probably your pain. So I always start with that, and by that you actually accept it. And the way you are actually talking about it, Dr. Rossi, about, for example, making the sensation higher, the feeling of the sensation more intense. To me, that's purely this, that someone is actually having, experiencing this. So I'm not telling him, get as far away from it as possible. That's my solution to your problem. I go, okay, focus on that even more and see how it changes when you focus on it. Can we go even further with it? All those questions show to the client, I see you. I accept fully what you're experiencing. I will not tell you that it's not true. I will not tell you that it's, that you can relax when everything hurts. If everything hurts, focus on it and see. I wonder how it's gonna alter when we're gonna give it the full attention, and then indirectly we can do a lot of things with it by suggesting some directions or something. But the first thing is here that I view as particularly valuable is I'm always starting when working with pain from what the patient experiences at the moment now, because then you can get pass a lot of resistance, healthy resistance that comes from the idea that you don't understand what I'm going through. So that these were the things that I wanted to comment on, that I saw in both your comments in many places. So I wanted just to put those together.
Well, wonderful, Jan. And what Erickson used to say, at least this is what Ernie would tell me Erickson used to say. Roxy, you can correct me or not. But that he used to say relaxation comes after a job well done. And that there is high phase hypnosis and low phase hypnosis. In high phase hypnosis, there's an activity going on. It's rising. In low phase hypnosis, there's a relaxation. And the sensitivity is to that client that's sitting in front of you. Where are they in the process? And then there's nothing that's forced. You're going with what's happening with that client.
So I have one question, Catherine. You started with telling us about you having experienced this significant pain yourself and having overcome it. And I'm just really curious about your perspective of what was the turning point for you, or was there a turning point? How did it go from being incapacitating pain to not troubling you anymore? How did that transformation take place?
Over a long time is probably the best way to describe it. That for the first approximately 9 months after this serious injury, I was in serious pain every day, but I never lost hope. And I never lost my dreams of what I was going to do if I wasn't in this debilitating chronic pain. And I always looked 3 times a day for the absence of pain. And so one day I could not believe it. I had 5 minutes without pain. And what I had said to myself prior to that is, what are my dreams? What do I want to do? I already had a master's degree. I wanted a PhD. I wanted to become a psychologist. I wanted to follow what I thought was my destiny. And that if I could ever be in a place that was with limited pain or pain-free, I was not going to hesitate and make my dreams come true. So I had this 5 minutes without pain. The skies opened up, the angels sang, and then I went into 3 weeks of the most debilitating pain practically of the whole time. But I didn't care, because I knew if I could have 5 minutes, I could have a lifetime. That's the message that I gave myself. And then the next time I had 1 hour of no pain. And would you believe, I fell at work. There was glazed tile in the parking lot, and it was wet, it was raining. And so it was a work-related injury. And I had to go and see the work-related medical doctor. And the work-related medical doctor, if I was not in pain, they were going to say, that's it, you're done. And I knew I'd had 5 minutes and now I'd had 1 hour, right? And I had to remimic. I couldn't believe it. How was I going to create this shaking? How was I going to create what my body was doing in pain? And I am not kidding you. I went to the coffee shop and I drank 7 espressos in a row. And it was like, okay, that's it. Yep, that's what my body does. And I went in for that appointment. But it took, even after that, it took greater than 2.5 years before I was pain-free. But it was the hope, you see. And so the turning point was that 5 minutes. That turning point was looking for it. And I was going to look for it every day for the rest of my life if that's what it took. I was not going to lose hope. And that was the turning point. And even though it's the only time I've ever mimicked being sick to go to see a doctor, but I can't begin to tell you what good information that was for me. It's like, in order to get myself into my usual state, I had to have that many espressos. Oh my God, I was man, I really withstood this being a wreck situation. And I drink decaf now. It's because I'm not into caffeine, but each experience, it was the fascination of it. And so I would never recreate being in that much discomfort. But at least I knew if I wanted to do it today, just have 7 espressos. Hey, I can go right back there.
I'm actually much more deeply interested in the pivotal moments, the 5 minutes of peace and the 1 hour of peace, as being pivotal indicators that you've learned new skills and that your body is on the mend. And those are what became the building blocks that allowed you to regain your health. And having to, confront the medical system and their limitations by drinking all that espresso, I credit your self-awareness that you needed the time to fully heal. And so we're able to attend to yourself in the way that you need. You bought the time with that act. But yeah.
Also, it was that when I was in this really serious distress with the pain, I could not carry anything. I could not be in any noisy rooms. I could not listen to the radio. I could nothing. And so I asked myself, what are my dreams? And I really focused on what are my dreams. And so I would say the expression of the 5 minutes without pain was the information feedback, but that I took that time, instead of complaining to myself about my situation, I was deciding what my dreams were and what I was going to do.
And self-directing from there. Mm-hmm.
So I think we've actually done a very interesting podcast today, about pain. I've learned a lot. I think we all have so much to contribute to this, and I admire both of you for your openness and in trying to operationalize this a little bit. And so I hope that our listeners have some ideas, because the biggest question to ask yourself is, well, okay, I see how Jan works. I see how Roxy works. I see how Catherine works, and they have success. What will be mine?
Right.
And that obviously, with me being, very, very, permissive in the end and indirect, Roxy being very direct, Jan in building up these skill sets, which may take, more than one session or two or three, but in looking at the future and how the future is going to bring you into a better place, let's build your skill set. So there's this huge variety of that I hope enchants our listeners, and to be able to tune into themselves and with their clients, and have the hope, have the expectations, have some new ideas of how to approach these situations.
I love the way how you said that you are more indirect and Dr. Erickson is more direct, whereas in this conversation you gave the direct example, and and Dr. Roxana was providing an indirect example. So
Well, but of course,
We're both flexible.
yeah, that's called perfect balance.
agreed.
Okay, Dr. Erickson, would you like to give us some last thoughts and comments?
Well, my last thoughts are developing your own fascination to what is going on, what is this picture, what are the possibilities, what can we do with it? And really, it's learning to be playful with the pain. Once you get the attention, once you get the focus, once you get the agreement that we're going to work together and we're going to tackle this beast, then being very, very playful with pain. And that opens up a whole horizon of possibility.
Exactly. Okay, so thank you very much for today's episode. It was a pleasure, as usual, and see you both next time. This was another episode of our Experiencing Consciousness podcast. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jan. You're the best. Be well, be happy, celebrate life.